Yeah.
Okay, so last one. Just this mixed-use development, and you guys got back into residential. Was that because you almost went back to your roots? It was like Back to the Future almost. And so when you started to sort of look at mixed use, again, was it we're not sure if we're going to get in? Because I know when you hired John, you didn't have a big development program, but it's really the development has become a big part of what Cadillac's portfolio is, right?
Well, we had a very large development program up till that era at the end of the 80s, of course, and then. I mean, I don't know. I don't think there was an office building built in downtown Toronto for a decade.
Well, you did the next one, I think.
Yeah. Maybe, but anyway, so we had John was hired. We went probably 5 or 6 years without a department, really, other than we had some, but it was mainly our construction groups that would do, minor upgrades and. Stuff that was going on, but we weren't contemplating new developments. So we hired John, and John kind of worked in the wilderness for 3 or 4 years before we got anything going. But no, the residential, I mean, mixed use is obviously very much the way for the future, particularly in large urban areas. I mean, not particularly in large urban areas, as opposed to less dense populations, But our return to residential per se, and it's really pretty much all condo, was really a decision around maximizing the coverage and harvesting all the value we could off a piece of land. So we'd get the densities upgraded and then be able to add a component. But we in 1982 really sold off all our residential and our residential expertise, the people that ran them and developed them. We hadn't had anybody like that in the company for 20, 30 years. So all our residential developments we've paired up with a developer who's in that business. And so we partnered with them and to do the projects, and they really ran that residential side because it's really not something we had the expertise to do, and that of course mitigated our risk and investment on the residential side, certainly. So it was really all about maximizing the value on a site that got us back into that.
And I think I know the answer to this question because I've asked you twice and you give me the same answer twice. So again, any hesitation from teachers to get into development, to get into residential development? Or?
No, not at all. We looked at rental residential as a class during the early years in the 2000 first decade. But it was just very hard to buy a platform with sufficient size for us, and industrial was the same actually. We would have looked at that if we'd been able to find a company and a platform, but rental residential has always been the premium kind of real estate. I think investors like it, banks like it. Your risk is spread over a much broader base, so it was always very expensive. And to put together a large portfolio in a city like Toronto, even if you could find somebody who was willing to sell, the cost was big, and generally the stock was old. There has been a lot of rental residential built in the last 20 years, and so it's old stock. So it's fraught with problems, I mean, there's lots of maintenance, you never know how much deferred maintenance is in one of these buildings until you own it, and so we were never really able to find a way in there that made sense to us.
So last two questions, and then I'm going to open the mic up. So you obviously have seen a lot. So anything that you wish you'd said, okay, real estate was shut to me. Clearly you were on a path to make lots of money because you kept moving on for these extra checks. But anywhere along the way you wish you'd stopped off and said, maybe if I'd gone that way, I would have also enjoyed that?
No, I don't think so. I think if I'd stayed with the bank, I probably would have enjoyed myself at the bank. I loved my career there. But in hindsight, real estate, it was just a great fit for me when I finally got there, and I enjoyed all those years since the early '70s, and it's been very good to me. So no second thoughts now.
I'll wake up in the middle of the night saying, I wish.
No.
So last question, which is the question I've asked every year when we've had a guest, is what single piece of advice would you give to younger people coming into the business? And I will remind people of the 3 answers that we had, which was Ned Goodman said, find yourself a partner because it spreads the risk. You're able to rely on someone. He said it doesn't have to be the same partner, but always find someone that you can rely on in your business life. John Love said, do that which is in front of you. Don't do that which is in front of what is in front of you. In other words, don't overreach. If you think that the task is mundane and you do it well, someone will find something better for you to do. Don't constantly overreach yourself. And Ed Sunshine's, which was the simplest of all, he said, just be honest. Because he said a smart, dishonest guy will find it much harder to have a career than a dumb, honest guy. Which wasn't bad advice either. So, over to you.
Well, I think like many business, it's a relationship business. And the people you meet and deal with through your, whether they be in the company or people you interact with in any activity, I think. Those relationships, they really do come back. And so I think treating people all the way through, certainly can't argue with honesty, being open and honest in all your dealings. Respect for people, I think, having a respect for everybody, whether, from the lowliest to the most senior people, sort of building those relationships, demonstrating respect. At the end of the day, that's how you, I think that's where integrity is born from. And I think at the end of the day, all you've got is your reputation, and if integrity isn't part of that reputation, then I think you have a tough time. So, I think it's those relationships you keep with, respect and open, fair, honest dealings, and it all works out.
And when and that's sort of the Cadillac way too, because I know when you and John were changing over, you toured every property, more or less met everyone at every property.
We did. We spent quite a few weeks on the road. I'd grown up through the operations side of the business, so I had the advantage of really knowing a lot of our people from coast to coast. John had come up through the development side, so hadn't had that exposure. So I think that handover was important. So that was a very much a managed process. Was planned and managed, and but yeah, the two of us went. We visited every property, and we had a town hall with tried to include every employee, and gave me a chance to say my thank yous to all of them on a much more one-on-one basis, and then gave me a chance to introduce and talk about John, and then it gave John a chance to sort of for them to hear John speak and get a sense of where he was going to take the company, and so that was very good.
Different experience, but same value system, right?
Yep.
That's what was seamless between.
Yep, that's right.